All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third live stream of the Migration Guesser, Smarter Migrations. I did a little bit of work off stream, and then, of course, I ran into a challenge. We'll call it a challenge with Test Bench. So I figure instead of like working through all that behind the scenes and then just like showing you this magical thing that works, come along for the ride and the pain of figuring out Test Bench. I've griped about Test Bench before. It's a great little tool. If you write packages, I think it's invaluable. It kind of sets up this Laravel application in the background, so you're able to like work with the Laravel app. Like historically, you used to like require dev Laravel framework. It was very messy. So it's a great little tool. I think the challenge I have is that when I do run into a problem, there's not like a lot of documentation to like kind of guide where to go with it. The documentation is pretty lightweight and it's a nice documentation, like design-wise, but it doesn't really flow very well. And I don't think it covers like just the basic common use cases very well. It takes multiple times of reading it to maybe pick up on like one little phrase that might be like, oh, here's how you fix it. So let's come along for the ride today, because honestly, once these tests are running, it's kind of just a bunch of string manipulation like we said last week. So I really wanted to backfill these tests. So here's kind of what I'm doing. Let's catch up for a second. Here's what I'm doing. Basically, I have 3 tests. And I'm going to load these up with some data providers. But right now, I'm just trying to get this one to run. And I'm running into a problem. So basically, the goal here, let's kind of finish driving this out, and then instead of jumping into the problem, let's drive this out so everyone's on the same page. So I've got a data provider, and what I'm trying to test, I like to add these little C, what is it, JMac Additions support migration creator. There we go. So what I'm trying to drive out is basically this one. Okay, if tables set and creates true, then we just default to kind of the core make creation. Now that's a bit of an implementation detail, and it's kind of documented through the test. Technically, I could just have a stub that matches create and do all my own work, but this is where the tests can kind of document the intended behavior of the code. Like there's no way to totally prove that. You could just, again, output a similar file. But this is kind of where this speaks to what I'm really trying to do here. I'm trying to catch this path. So the data provider is pretty straightforward. It's like, oh, create comments table, pass it a table of comments, and then true for create. So if that comes in, it's going to trigger that if statement, and we should just generate that. So the goal here is that this basically returns a path, and then we would more or less do something where we asserted that the path that got created, right, if we kind of dump path, that with, we could just say actually with PHP unit, that assert file, I think assert file equals, and we would say the expected would be this, I've made this little helper for this migration fixture and then name. So basically this is the test. It's very straightforward. It's an integration test. We resolve the migration creator. This makes sure that we're overriding it with ours, right? So the linkage is there in the container, as we found a couple streams ago. The dumps, just because I was running into problems with whatever, we basically call create on that subject, in this case our migration creator, and we pass it all the things that Laravel would. We pass it the name of the migration, the database path, which is migrations. In this case, because I'm using test bench, this actually resolves to like test bench little workbench little file. And then table and create. And again, those come from the data fixtures. So my guess of what's happening is that, you know, this workbench, my guess, in kind of talking this out and rubber ducking it ourselves right now, my guess is this comments creation thing gets stuck in workbench and it doesn't get cleared out before the next test runs. That's kind of my guess, right? Right now these are all static, and it kind of like, I guess it knows not to rerun those migrations. But yeah, there's probably some attribute or something or some teardown or something that we need to add here to say, oh, we made a migration like for our tests, so, you know, get rid of that one. Don't run that one again, so to speak. That's my guess. I don't know that for sure, but I think that's what's happening, is because we're kind of using this path, it's being a little interesting, right? So anyway, that's the goal of what we're trying to do. We're trying to use TestBench runtime Laravel app to truly make the migration on the file system. We're going to get that path in return, and then we're just going to assert these two files equal the same thing. Our fixture for that specific name that we were going to try to test matches the file that was created by our creator at the path, right? So this means we don't have to mess with any like date times and all that prefix and stuff. None of that matters. That's not our job. Laravel's doing all that for us. All we want to do is say that file equals this file. But again, it's kind of not working. So let's go see the crazy errors that we get here. And again, I'm sure this is just a little setting that's off, but you know, I don't use TestBench every day, and so some of these nuances end up catching me, and like every time I burn like an hour trying to figure out this, and then you figure it out and you're like, oh cool, and then you don't use TestBench for 6 months and you forget what it is. And again, it's just not documented, so we just get a wall of errors here. Let's just give ourselves some space and run that again. We just get a wall of errors here that basically says post table already exists. And to me, that means that somehow between these tests, like it's attempting, or yeah, see, it's weird. It's actually saying like on create comments, the post table already exists. So, you know, if it said comments table already exists, then I would think like it was rerunning itself, but it says post table already exists. So to me, that means like, again, it's like attempting to rerun this. And it's almost like if we put a dump, it's almost like I want to put a dump in here and see that it's like saying here, 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 or whatever, right? Let's just do that. Maybe that actually works. So let's say something like post migration. So let's run this again. And of course, we should expect to see this at least twice. See, we only see it once. We see it once at the very beginning. So this is where I'm kind of like stuck, because I don't know why it's rerunning migrations. Like, where would it say post table already exists? Got this command. So it's like, there's not a lot here. You know, there's nothing obvious like in our application. And again, personally, I would expect it to say that twice. It's only saying it once, and then it's kind of jumping out of there. Table posts already exist. And this is an in-memory. At first I thought, okay, well maybe I have, maybe I have something here. But if we look at PHP unit, it's a SQLite memory. So like, and this doesn't happen for any of our other tests that use migrations. So for example, if we go look at traits, find by actually needs, oops, that's the actual implementation. Let's go to the test, sorry. Find by needs the migrations. So I kind of checked here, like these posts actually need stuff in the background. And all I have is like this refresh database. I don't have anything, there's no tear down or clean up in here. And this runs completely fine. you know, kind of against the database. So we create one. So we're actually, you know, again, we're using the database. So clearly, if I do this, oh, nope, now we're getting a bunch of errors. Post table already exists. So see, now we're getting here. So like something's getting corrupted here. It's like Orchestra's not doing what, oh, this is crazy, jeez. So it's like if I run my test, something gets corrupted. It's very strange. I don't understand it. There's nothing else in database. So like there's some kind of test cleanup that we're missing. And I guess this doesn't happen on CI because it's running on a fresh environment every time. I don't know. I don't know. So let's go look. Laravel test bench. Because yeah, I mean, this is, again, it's just a bunch of string manipulation once this actually runs the way I need it to. I don't know what the problem was before. Or I don't know why it wasn't a problem before. Official documentation. Okay, so we install test bench. We're going to assume we've done all this. Configuration. Yep, we dropped that on there. PHP unit configuration. Great. Test bench. All right, so let's kind of slow down here. Okay, so auto loading using test bench. Test bench will use the configuration file values in test bench YAML and use it when test case uses with workbench. We do. So it's going to load up our package service providers. Okay, so maybe we're like not loading our service provider or something. Let's go see. Do we have a service provider? Okay, I think we do now, actually. So does this... Why doesn't that load? Workbench app. Using with Workbench will make the test uses provider value from using custom Laravel will make test case uses Laravel. Okay, using Workbench will make test case uses Laravel configuration value from. Okay, and we're saying Laravel at test bench. That seems strange. Yeah, see, like what I would like to see here is saying something like by default, the service providers in your package are automatically loaded. But if you would like to load additional service providers, you may do so here, right? Like, again, it's all in here if you know what you're doing, but if you don't know what you're doing, like, I don't know. Test bench will use the configuration values defined in this, la 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 la. Yeah, like, I don't know, maybe it's not loading our test bench, or sorry, our service provider. Test bench isn't loading our service provider, so like, something's not getting wired up. I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt to try, right? So let's just say, I mean, we register our own provider, so like it should just be happening through Composer, I suppose. So JMac Additions, what is this? Additions service provider. I don't know, maybe that somehow magically helps. Doesn't seem like it. Table post already exists. All right, so let's Laravel test bench table. Let's do a common one like table users already exists. Missing refresh database trait. Okay, we have it. All right. That's the other thing. Like, again, there's just not that many, like, there's a lot of packages out in the community. I've talked about this before, but when you take the cross section of Laravel packages, that are actually writing tests, that are using TestBench, and that are doing these kinds of things, like their own little Laravel app within it, that cross section's very, very small. So like it's not surprising that you're not getting any, you know, you're not getting anything here. It's just like shooting in the dark here. To load your package service provider, override the get package providers. Okay, so maybe I'm doing that. Let's go see. Ah, okay, I am doing that. All right, fair. So that's how our package provider is getting loaded right there. Okay, that's fine. So we shouldn't need to do this. Let's just revert this. We shouldn't need to do that. It didn't seem to hurt anything, but we shouldn't need to do it. Package aliases, fine. Package auto discovery. All right. You may enable auto discovery. I don't think I need auto discovery. Overriding default service providers. I don't think we need to do that. Overriding the service. Don't think we need to do that. Using custom Laravel skeleton. By default, TestBench provides a basic Laravel skeleton. However, you can override the application base path method from your test case class. This method was only introduced if you need to override Laravel skeleton on a project. Okay, no. So like, should this say workbench instead of skeleton? Should that say that? I mean, I don't think so. Testing blade components, fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with environment setup. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Let's go to the database. It is recommended for a package to use service provider load migrations from feature. It automatically handles migrations for your package side. So there's no migrations for our package. To reduce configuration, we've done this. Otherwise, you can override. We don't need to override. We don't need to define anything, I wouldn't think. Automatically executing migrations. By default, you can use the refresh database trait to only run package migrations defined through your package service provider. Okay. So again, we don't define any migrations. Manually executing. Instead of just automatically migrating the database, you also manually configure migration steps using define. See, I don't think we do this. I don't think we do this anywhere. Yeah, doesn't seem like we do that anywhere. Do we call migrate anywhere? This is why I was hoping to have this running before the stream, but like, let's see if anything in the chat. If anyone knows, I am all ears. Are you sure refresh database is needed? You need to clean up the file written to the disk rather than the table in the scheme. And the documentation says that refresh database is needed. But you're right, my specific test that's just testing the file system may not need it. It's just interesting that when I go and run another test, it's all broken as well. So, but yeah, that's fair. Let's just go take it off ours. Because I mean, technically we don't need to run the migrations for our test. So let's drop it, see what happens, right? Hey, I'm all ears. Hey, okay, it got somewhere. It got somewhere. Failed asserting that that exists. Okay. Okay, hey, whatever. Whatever. Let's keep going. I'm with you. I don't want to fuck around. I don't want to fuck around with TestBench anymore, to be honest. It's annoying. Okay. It's part of being a programmer, but man, that's where you kind of just like want to go go do that's. It's like I'm getting older, and so now when this happens, I used to just be able to just hunker down and figure it out for like hours. And it's not that I can't figure it out anymore. It's just that like I kind of just don't care to anymore. Almost like after 30 minutes, I'm just like, this is stupid. Anyway, we need to make a PHP file called, what is it called? It's called create comments table.php, right? So it's looking for create comments table.php. Okay, so this is at least in here. Now we should get like this file doesn't match that file. That's what I would hope. Failed asserting that file exists. Okay, this still doesn't exist. Oh, because it's looking underneath here. Okay. All right, let's see. I've done something wrong here. Base path, did I do that wrong? I made this little base path helper to get to my fixtures, but maybe I did that the wrong way. Where are we? We're not in the find by test anymore. We're in this test. This base path, this takes a path. Does this take path? Yeah, that takes a path. Let's plop this in here. That should say dir should be relative to where it is currently, which is the tests folder. We shouldn't need to go ... It's a sibling. That's my bad. All right, let's try that again. There we go. That feels a little better. There's nothing in this file. So we really just, again, now we're getting to like a test manipulation part. Okay, so sorry about the detour. I still can't explain. Does this run now? See, this doesn't run. Why does this not run? This was running before. I still think there's some kind of like corruption that's happening somewhere. Now it's saying post doesn't exist. Or no, already exists. Okay, yeah, I don't know. I still feel like test bench is like a little funky when you like rerun a test. It shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm gonna call it ghosts in the machine. Refresh database is needed for package migrations, not testing the ability to create. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that part. I'm with you. We probably didn't need refresh database for this specific test because we're just doing some file system manipulation. It's just interesting to me that now running this find by test, which needs migrations to be run, is just throwing exceptions everywhere all of a sudden. But when I go and push this to CI here in a minute, I bet you it won't. So like, let's test that. Let's get this comments table correct. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open up a new terminal. Let's go to our smarter migrations and let's do PHP artisan make migration create comments table, right? Exactly what should get created. Oh crap. It's using ours. I don't think it's gonna generate, or well, no, it might. Let's cat this out. Okay, it does, cool. So it's still leveraging Laravel as it should. So let's pb copy. That last bit, right? All right, cool. Let's go back over here and let's paste that. We'll save this. And now, if we rerun this, I would have expected to see a pass, and we do. Okay, we do. Good. We just have some annoyances here because we're not following PHP unit. The data provider specified. Okay. I forget, how do we mark these as skipped? Let's put these in here and then we'll mark these two as incomplete, and then I'd like to push this up. I'd like to push this up and see what happens. But let's go ahead and get this a little tighter, right? So we need to do that, and we need to do that to make these correct. And then let's mark both of these. This mark test incomplete. All right. And let's do a vendor bin pint real quick. I want to push this to CI and make sure that I didn't break something by like trying to fix this like migration issue. So let's do this. Let's do a git add -p. Let's just kind of review what we've done here. So we've made a default migration, and again, more and more fixtures can be added to this. That's kind of the slow part. We're gonna do at least one or two more just to kind of beef these out. But like, that's all we're really doing. We're just calling our migration creator and making sure it put a file on the path, or make sure that it created a file that we expected. We're kind of overlapping some testing a little bit with Laravel core, but we're doing that because we want to make sure it calls Laravel core when we don't have a guessable thing, like something we're adding, right? All right, so we added this little helper path to get a base path for our test suite. And then we have this new test fixtures. All right, so that's everything. Oops. I added that wrong. We'll just add everything. So let's do a get whip. I'm going to do a get push. Oops. Get push -u. Let's track that origin head. Okay. Don't know what the find by test is doing. Yeah, it's not really important. The point is that the find by uses the database. This find by trait uses the database, and it uses refresh database. That's really kind of the only point. So if I do like vendor bin PHP unit, then yeah, we still get this post already exists. Like, to me, there's kind of no reason for that. So anyway, let's go make sure CI is running. All right, so yeah, maybe we don't have a PR open. Fair enough. Okay, yeah, this should run now, hopefully. A lot of them are gonna run, wow. Okay, let's keep going with our fixtures while we're waiting on that to run. Really all I'm trying to test is that, like, if this build runs and passes here completely, then like, again, I don't know why my local machine doesn't seem to like refresh orchestra's, you know, whatever. So let's also make sure we actually truly corrected those skipped tests. So let's bring those back up. Okay, we got two exceptions. Too few arguments to function. Why is it even... Oh, yeah, sorry. Unknown. Let's just call this something silly, like unknown migration name. Null and false. That's fine. And then we could do this a few more times, like something else, like, I mean, you don't want to test for like everything ever that you couldn't do. Oh, this is in the wrong spot. Hold on a sec. Let's fix this. So unknown migration action, you know, and then it's like, it's kind of like an unguessable, right? And this is like, this could be something like alter, you know, whatever table, and we could say whatever here. Actually, we should be able to finish this out. Let's run this again and let it choke. Okay, so there's going to be some things that are missing, so let's just go ahead and for now we'll just touch those fixtures to get them in place. And again, we could go over to our other app to generate what these really are, but if we rerun this again, my guess is they just, yeah, they don't, like Laravel even in this case doesn't know what to do per se to these, right? Even this like unknown action, it can't even guess the table, so that makes sense. So let's run these as well over here, and then we'll just copy out whatever it makes, right? So we'll do PHP artisan make migration and that. And then we'll basically pb copy, whoops, hello. We'll pb copy that again. We'll go back over here to our unknown. We'll paste that, and then let's do this again for the other one. And again, these tests are a little bit, I don't know if brittle's the right word, but they're a little wonky. Like, see, it didn't even know that that was whatever table. So technically Laravel got null here. I would have assumed it might have been able to pull out whatever, but I think it only does that for create statements. The thing to see would be, do we pull that out, right? That's kind of an interesting test here. Do we pull that out and generate a different migration? So as we continue to go, I could see that test starting to fail. But anyway, let's finish what we were doing here. So let's get that one, and let's go to the alter. And for now, these should just generate two of the same things, basically. Let's go back here, run this, and we should be back to green. Nope, just kidding. It makes it, oh yeah, we got an error in our actual tests. Okay, so let's figure out something we actually want to test here just to drive this out. So what do we actually want to test? Let's actually get like a real test going here. So if we don't know what the type is, see, we could end up guessing table, I think. We may end up guessing table because we do override it here. Okay, so now we're down to DD. I'm going to get rid of this just for less noise. Let's do like a drop table real quick, right? Let's do a drop table. So here's what we expect. If we pass this drop users table, right? And it's gonna get null and false. That's what I would think it would do. We could go test this actually. Let's leave this dump in here just one more second. And we'll go make this in the other one and see what it generates. So let's do that. Let's bring in drop users table. So it gets null, we find our stuff, we don't actually output anything. Great, okay, that's fine. So now what I wanna do is I actually wanna go over here and let's bring apart a drop users table. All right, and what I would wanna do here is say schema drop if exists users, right? That's what we would want to generate. Now it could be super opinionated and kill the down. I'm tempted to do that. Because like what's the down, what's the down of dropping a table? Recreate it? Like you're gonna put the whole current recreation statement in there? I mean, I guess you could. But like, again, I'm gonna leave that for another day. I think for now, I'll just leave the down in there if someone wants to fill it in. But this is what I would want to see get generated, right? So if we go back over here, we at least have an incomplete test. That's fine, but we're not getting any kind of like crazy failures anymore, right? So I think it's getting to where we expect it to get. That's just getting marked as incomplete. So really, we actually don't want to mark that incomplete anymore. We want to see that it's getting down here for that specific test. So let's unmark that as incomplete. And what I'd like to see now is that the migration it generated is obviously not the same as the one we expected. Okay, so it got to drop user. Oh, it does nothing. We just have a DD there. It does nothing. But it's also not actually even going to make, anything. Yeah, exception. Failed asserting, okay, actual must be type of string null given. It doesn't return anything because it's not creating anything. So this is the part we need to do, of course. So let's try to fill this in real quick. Ensure migration doesn't already exist. That's kind of nice, I guess, right? A blah, blah, blah class already exists. Aren't these all anonymous now? I thought they're all anonymous classes now. We're not actually generating classes anymore. It's strange. If class exists, class name, get class name. Wouldn't the class not exist? I don't even know if we need to do that. I don't know if there's some special magic where it knows, it assigns the anonymous class a name based on the file. I don't know. I don't know why this is. I know why it's here from like Laravel's framework perspective, but I don't think it needs to be in ours. So I'm just going to jump ahead to this stuff. Fire post create hooks and return path. So let's dial this in a bit. Let's dial that in a bit. So get stub. Yeah. We're going to probably need to overwrite get stub. We're probably going to need to overwrite our own get stub based on the type of thing you're doing. Yeah, so it's kind of, it might be something more like get stub by action or, you know, type. Get stub for type. We'll probably need to make our own one of these. And then get path, I don't think we'll need to do anything here. We'll just keep the date prefix and all that stuff. That's great. We're not going to change any of that. We're not going to change any of the ensure it exists. We will... We're going to need to do more with populate stub. But I think for now, I'm just going to tighten all of this up. Yeah, and this is all like, it's mostly copied from Laravel. The only thing that we'll do different is like populate stub. We'll need to overwrite it in ours. We need to be mindful about, we'll have to overwrite it with a different name though, kind of like we're doing with this. We'll just stick with the like type part, right? Because if we overwrite it in ours, I mean, we could overwrite it because it's really just, it's going to do the same stuff. Yeah, it's kind of going to do the same stuff, right? And it's just going to do more. So we could call parent populate stub and then our additional stuff if type is set. But see, then you're going to pass it different arguments. You're going to pass it. See, we're not just passing it tables. So yeah, I think we're going to have to make our own actually. So we'll have to say for type. So we'll pass it stub, table, type, and data. So let's make these two methods. And for now, let's just return, let's go back to their guesser. Let's just return a basic, oh, do they have a custom stubs path? Interesting, okay. Interesting. What do they do with that? Do they do more? Oh, file get, okay. All right, they do a bit more there. So let's honor that for a second. So we'll just return that for now. We're not even going to use type. And then this will return a string. And let's go ahead and generate this. And for now, what we can do here is basically the same stuff that core does when we populate stub. This. So we could really just call parent with table right now. I think is the simplest thing to do. I'm just trying to get this test to a quote unquote good failure, and then I'm gonna fill in the rest off stream. Yeah, I burned too much time messing around with Orchestra. I do want to see if it's failing in CI though. So we'll say populate stub with stub and table, right? I think this is the bare minimum to at least get the test to a failing place. Perfect. Perfect. It's exactly what I expected. Obviously, we are not putting in the schema drop if exists. So in order to make it do that, in order to get these lines to line up correctly, there's two things that can happen. One, I can make my own stub for this and put it in the package, which is probably what I'll do. And then basically it'll just replace this placeholder with the table name that it gets. And I think a majority of the smarter migrations that are getting, guessed and generated will probably just have that, right? The other alternative, and this would be a bit more difficult to do, but I could do it. But I think it's kind of like a version, 1.1 kind of thing. You could keep Laravel's basic migration like we're doing. You could keep their basic migration. So if we go look at their migrations, their basic migration stub, we could leverage those and then replace a very specific part of that. What I like about that is you're not making a bunch of your own stubs, and that way if someone did customize these, you're kind of honoring that. But on the same lines, if they did customize it, then whatever that little part you're trying to replace is may not work anymore. It may not exist, and then you're going to end up giving them like a really weird migration. So the safe thing to do would be to make our own stubs and like just make sure that they're publishable and people can change them and try to do it in a way where I'm not doing like a bunch. I basically have like a migration top level stub, and that's like all the rename stuff. And then I have like a migration update specific stub, right? Which is like where I'm actually creating a migration, where I'm actually like filling in parts of the internal migration, right? So like, if we go back, I probably only need 2 of these. I probably just need like a migration.table.stub and then like a migration.alter.stub or update.stub. Like, it's kind of my own version of that one. I would never need create because we're deferring to Laravel on that. It's kind of like a migration top level because it's not always table stuff. You could be dropping a column, and then it's like a migration, alter, where I'm actually like, it's basically update, but I'm filling in a portion of it. That's where it gets a little bit funky, is this one. So I don't want to make a lot of them. Again, you kind of see the dilemma. I don't want to make a lot of them because like I don't want to make them unpublishable or this, that, or the other, but this is a very customized thing. Oh, whoa. All the tests are failing. Oh, well, of course they're all failing. We've got failures here. Okay, so what I want to do, I think, just to see if CI, well, it doesn't really matter. We could see which test it's failing on, right? Let's run vendor bin pint. Let's push this back up. It's all just a whip. It's all whipping right now. Git push, if you spell push right. I was going to click through one of these and see. Let's see what it actually, let's see what one of these actually failed on. Okay, 2 errors. 2 errors were too few arguments. That's where we were, 10 minutes ago. So it didn't fail. It didn't fail on the find by. Vendor bin. See, what the hell? With fallback. Posts already exist. It still kind of makes no sense. I don't know, again, I don't know why locally we're not just getting one failure. I don't know why these other tests that I didn't change are griping about posts already being created. I don't have an explanation for that. I also don't know why on CI they wouldn't do what they're doing locally. I'm running the same, I'm running the same vendor bin PHP unit, right? There it is. Like, why? I don't know. Hey, I'll try it. I'll try it, Adrian. Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a weird, buggy version of test bench. I have no idea. Okay, see it only. Okay, cool. Okay, fair. This is kind of my point, though. On a fresh installation, it's fine. But let's run it again and see if it chokes on 55 of them now. There you go. That's my point. I don't know why, when there is a test failure, it's like it's not cleaning up after itself when there's a test failure. Which means Orchestra, like, you better have your test suite passing all the time, or you're going to have to rerun it in a fresh environment. That's a very weird experience. Like, there's got to be some hook or tear down or something I'm missing, right? That's why, I'll keep looking in the documentation. Again, I'm not saying it's this thing's fault. It's just, that should be like a number one thing here somewhere. Like, that should just be, okay, notes and consideration. What do we have here? All right. You may put your, okay, you may choose to change your test migration. Okay, fine. Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like somewhere on notes or something, somewhere on this page, it should say teardown, Like Mockery has a very explicit teardown. If you don't do it, you'll start getting like weird exceptions because it didn't close out, its expectation checks. If that's the problem here, when you have a failure, it doesn't clean up after itself because of this failure. Like something's misfiring, right? And that just feels weird. Something's got to be wrong there. Or I don't know, maybe I'm on an old version and that's just like how this old version behaved and now the later version's better. I don't really know. Let's go look. Yeah, see, I'm still on 10. I think they're on like 11 now, in fairness, maybe even 12. I don't know. So like, I don't know. I'll look into upgrading. Again, I don't want to gripe about Test Bench the whole stream. It's just clearly something's missing here, right? I don't know why rerunning this isn't clearing itself out. My only guess is if we have a perfectly passing, I'm just going to mess with this one last time. If we have a perfectly passing test suite, so let's go back. Well, this won't pass because we've broken other stuff. But let's say, let's ban Rhino, Buzzhead, and let's do the dance again. Let's rmrf vendor. And let's composer install. And let's run our test suite, which should now pass. Let's run it again. Yeah. Running your test suite twice doesn't clean up after itself. No clue. I don't know. I don't know why it's doing that. I'll figure it out over time. So anyway. Thanks everybody for going with me on the journey. I will get all these fixtures put in the right spot. I don't think that's very fun to watch, much like me battling Test Bench. But thanks everybody for joining live. We'll do some fresh topics next week. See ya.